G'day everyone. Welcome to the Outback Packers podcast, the podcast where two mates from all the way across the world have a yarn talking Packers football and the green and gold. I'm Nick Gregory with my co-host, today covering a big game against the Eagles with a ton of implications for the future of this team. Today we welcome special guest Todd Varney, the co-host of Lombardi's Bar.
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored to be here. However, I am a little bit upset that Jimmy beat me to the show. But
hey, man, schedules.
Yeah,
you were the first one I asked.
Yeah, Joe, when you asked me, I was actually in the middle of like a 2-week road trip, just living out of my car. So
You're right.
And we know Jimmy does nothing except for sit in the basement and whatever in his basement.
He has no life besides raising my kids. So he's got plenty of time. But no, I'm stoked to be here and talk Packers with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I want to start it off this way because we have a thing. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Joe.
All right, we're good.
What was that?
Every week in the comments on Lombardi's Bar, it's Joe always puts in "Hi, Todd" and "Suck it, Jimmy."
And if you haven't noticed, Dan threw a fit a couple weeks ago. I've been saying "Stifle it, Dan," because he's been doing his soccer or his football rants, and yeah, that's not my thing. We'll just put it that way. Although, I've got an Australian for a co-host. I don't know. Is there anything you want to talk about with the World Cup? I'm not sure if you're a big follower or not. I'll give you a minute.
I mean, to be honest, I do not follow soccer at all. I think I'm kind of a Belgium fan by proxy, but I really don't follow it at all. So I'm happy to move on to real football.
Okay, minute's up. That was a good minute.
That was the best soccer segment I've heard in a long time.
Beautiful. I mean, it's everything that was relevant about soccer.
That's the kind of hard-hitting stuff you get from this show, Todd.
Absolutely. So with that, I think as we do every single week, let's just do a quick wrap up and catch up with everything that's going on in the NFC and the NFL in general. I just wanted to start by saying,
Nick, and say that I'm in a remote location right now because of schedule and recording stuff. So if I happen to drop out, Bigfoot, aliens, or the government grabbed me. I'm kind of hoping it's Bigfoot because out of the three, he's less likely to probe me, and I really don't feel like being probed tonight.
Live a little, man. Live a little.
It's been a long weekend at work, so the probing, it's one of those things where if I had to, I'd say I had a headache.
I feel like with all that stuff that's come out with Aaron Rodgers today, you'd probably be pretty good friends as conspiracy.
Hey man, that could be a whole nother podcast.
I don't think we have enough time for that one. I just want to start by talking about how this conference, the NFC, how it's like so open. And I mean, I think kind of last year we talked a little bit about this as well, but I think this is kind of a year where if the Packers had been solid, there would have been so many opportunities. And I think the fact that we're in week 12 and they've done as awfully as they have done and they're still mathematically in it, I think is really a testament to that. We have like a few really good teams like the Cowboys, Niners, and the Eagles, obviously, but I don't feel like any of those teams are like the single most obvious best team in the whole conference. You know what I mean? Like, I think, it just kind of a year that might be Rodgers' last, and it was kind of like, the last year of the real window for this team that we didn't get an opportunity to take advantage of this conference. How do you guys feel about the state of the NFC?
I mean, can Dallas really be considered a good team since the Packers beat them?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen good teams lose to bad teams in the past.
I know.
It happens, but it definitely kind of knocks them off that like upper echelon peg, I think, a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if the Packers have the season that everyone kind of assumed they would have, you take that 3-game stretch that we all kind of assumed was going to be easy wins with the Giants, the Jets, and the Commanders. You flip those around, this team's sitting pretty. I mean, hell, even at that point, I mean, still wild card, behind the Vikings right now, but definitely in the hunt still. So it's a wild NFC, and to look at it every week, it feels like the last 3 weeks, it's been like, it's no room for error. We gotta win out if we want to make the playoffs. This is, now's the time to go. And they lose, and you're like, well, they're still in it.
There's a 2% chance. I saw Demoski tweet this earlier. There's 2%, so there is still a chance.
Yeah.
But I had this conversation with a guy just after the loss Sunday, that the Packers aren't a prototypical 4-7 team. Like you said, Todd, there's 3 games that probably should have been won, but they didn't. So, I mean, and a flip of the coin, they could have won certain games and be, 7-4 or whatever, the 7-5 or whatever. But then on the flip side, there's a couple of games that came down to the last second that they could have lost, and we could be easily sitting at 2-9 or 2-10 or whatever that record would be. So it's been a really strange year. And as we keep repeating on this podcast week in and week out, there's a lot of weirdness going on in the NFC. Who would have thought the Eagles would have done what they've done? And you mentioned the Jets, the Giants, and the Commanders. They've went on pretty much tears after playing the Packers. I mean, who would have thought, the Giants would be doing as well as they were with, nobody counted on Daniel Jones doing what he does, or their defense, or Saquon Barkley coming back after 2 pretty crappy years. So, it's going to be an interesting run to the playoffs. But like I said, 2% chance. There is a chance.
Always a chance.
I'm going to be like Rodgers. Until the Packers are mathematically out of it, I still believe.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is definitely a team that's not good. I think we can all agree that they're not. But at the same time, I feel like they are better than their record shows. And, like you guys said, they've been in these games. And when they've lost some of these games, it's usually just in the most ridiculous, over-the-top ways. It's not like they're just, say for a few weeks, like, week 1, prime example, they're not just not showing up at all and, totally not being there. But it's just like, they make these so many mistakes and get in their own way. And I mean, like, if you look at like a lot of the statistics, Justice Mosqueda does a breakdown of like the NEA every single week, and they're basically about dead average for a team in the league in both defense and offense. And we see like a lot of like the high, but at the end of it, they're not actually like a bottom 5 team. It's just that they've just had so many poor breaks. I mean, not that this should be reason, but they've had a lot of poor ref decisions as well not go their way. I mean, it's just an accumulation of bad decisions and bad luck for this team. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at now.
Be interesting. A train's going to go by.
That's Jimmy battles that at his place pretty regularly. So yeah, train noise is fine.
Well, I had to laugh. Well, I mean, this is kind of derailing, but I just saw it funny because the lights started flashing at the intersection here. But we have a no horn ordinance in this town, so we won't at least get that. We might get some rumbling, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more we can talk about the NFC or around the league, because it's just so. It's like we're beating a dead horse, and because it's the same stuff week in and out. Such and such team is surprisingly doing shitty, and such team is surprisingly doing good. I mean, it's going to make the NFL money, because when it hits the playoffs, people are going to be invested because it's teams that haven't been there in a while. It kind of sucks seeing it from our end, because we're used to being in that mix, and now we're, most of the Packer fans are looking forward to the draft already. So We were talking about conspiracies earlier. This one, I just thought of it. So it starts here tonight. The way the team has been playing, at least the defense, they've been uninterested. I mean, Kenny Clark's dropped off. Amos hasn't been there. Razul Douglas was getting beat, like, to quote the great Jim Ross, like a government mule. I mean, it was crazy last Sunday night with it. So, are the Packers in tank mode for this year? Now that Rodgers is hurt and they kind of, even though it's a 2% chance, they're not. In all likelihood, they're not going to the playoffs. So have the Packers just finally set in tank mode and said, well, let's take as high a pick as we can get?
I don't know if they need to go into tank mode to do that. I mean, looking at their remaining schedule, sure, they've got the Bears coming up, a bye. The Rams, who knows what you're going to get out of the Rams? Who do they have after that? I think it's Miami. They're in Miami on Christmas. And then the Vikings and Lions. So, I mean, the way they've been playing, they can very easily beat any of those teams. They can also get beat by any of those teams.
Right.
So I don't know that they need to enter into a full-fledged tank mode. I think they can just go out and play their own game and still manage to tank it.
Right. But I mean, it just, honestly, like I said, it seemed like Kenny Clark was just half-hearted playing. Amos has been regressing this year. It just seems like, it's like they're not there anymore. So, I mean, have they given up just because they just don't care anymore? Have they just said, all right, let's just, cut it. We'll take the highest draft pick we can get. Or, are they just this shitty?
This team, especially on the defensive side, it feels like they drank their own Kool-Aid a lot and expected to just walk out on the field and be as good as everybody said they were. Everybody on this defense regressed. I can't think of a single person that is playing better than they did last year. And that's
Jair, but that's only because he was out half the year last year.
Right. And honestly, one of my concerns right now is that they turn around and give Rudy Ford a nice deal like they did with Razul Douglas. Like, sure, he's a nice piece, but he played half a good season in his career. There's a reason Razul Douglas was sitting out there for anybody to snag off the practice squad. And he came in and had, some nice moments for the team, really filled in. I mean, they needed somebody to play corner, and he stepped up and was able to do it and did it at a pretty high level. But to give him that kind of money for 6-8 games, like, come on, that's a bit much. And now watching Rudy Ford, I mean, he's kind of been the highlight of this defense if you've got to pick one out. And he's been solid, but Kenny all year has kind of been down. Amos has been making mistakes all year. Savage is, I don't even know.
2.0.
Yeah. And Dean Lowry. I mean, Dean Lowry had a really impressive season last year, I thought, from where he was. And he has just been awful this year. I mean, it's to the point teams know where he's at all times because they're going to run right at him.
Was it you that pointed this out against the Bills or was it one of the other games where they knew that they could rush against Dean Lowry, so they were always rushing against Dean Lowry, and finally Quay Walker picked it up, so that's where he would start leaning over to? I want to say it was you that said that.
Yeah, I made that point last week.
Yeah.
You could see in that Tennessee game that when it made it easier when he was in the game for Quay because Quay knew where they were going to run. If he wasn't in the game, it was anybody's guess where the ball was going. But if Dean Lowry's in there, and it doesn't, like, every defensive line coach at every level preaches, stay low, be the low guy, just get low. And Dean Lowry stands up straight on pretty much every play and just gets bullied. And it blows my mind that on the off chance he's in position to make a play, he's in the wrong spot. If you go back and watch, like, it's because he got fooled and dumped somewhere and the play got broken. A guy had to redirect and they're just like, oh shit, Dean Lowry's here. And he still typically doesn't make the play. I think there was one last night with Jalen Hurts where he like kind of reversed field and all of a sudden like Dean Lowry was there and he was just like, oh, I'm just going to step around you real quick.
Well, I'll let Nick go because we've kind of bullied him out of position right now. But to kind of touch on the two things you said about Rudy Ford, that's always the big concern when you get these guys that come in and they make the splash. I mean, you could even take a look at Devondre Campbell. He's obviously he's injured right now, but he really regressed compared to what he was doing last year. And it always makes you worried when you give him these money contracts. But then on the flip side, it sucks because then you've still got to replace that production that you had that 1 year. So do you just go ahead and throw him the money, or do you bring in somebody else in hopes that you can, keep the same kind of production? So I think they'll re-sign Rudy Ford. I don't think it's going to be a huge contract, but I think mainly just because more of his special teams capabilities than and be kind of like the Jarrett Bush type player. And then Dean Lowry, he's a good guy, but I've never been the hugest fan of him because he's kind of like Preston Smith in a way where their careers go in waves. 1 year he can be this, not necessarily dominant, but he's this good player. And then the next year he's getting tossed around like a sack of garbage. So, I mean, I do think we need to cut ties with him. I think it's about time. Devontae Wyatt had a pretty good game against the Eagles, and he's been kind of like I've talked about before on here with other players. He's been stacking successes. So I think it's time to just move on from Lowry, kind of plug and play. Hell, if we're out of it right now, why not bring Jack Heflin up? I got to rep that Iowa guy right there. So I just, some of these guys I really think it's time to move on for. I'd hate to say it, but maybe Amos, Darnell Savage. I think we're going to have to pull maybe a trade on him just because he's really was solid for the first year, maybe year two, and has just had that third and fourth year regression. So it's going to be a hard off season, and I'm not looking forward to covering it. But yeah, Nick, you can go ahead. Like I said, I think we kind of bullied you into a corner.
I know it's good discussion. I mean, the last thing that I kind of want to say before we get directly into this game is just I feel like we're kind of seeing the first signs of players like really giving up. I think you always have certain players who are just those high effort guys. Someone like Rashawn Gary, I don't think it's even possible for him to stop putting in effort when he plays. And then, kind of like you guys mentioned, Kenny Clark, I think is a big one. And it's like, yeah, like some of these defensive players do not want to tackle. You can see it. And the guys who are pushing hard are the ones who are either young rookies or guys who are fighting for their jobs. I mean, some of them are just comfortable, or some of them just don't care. Some of them are just, showing up to work. And it's just like, that's not how you win football games. And, I do get it. It's hard to stay motivated, right? When you're like at this point in the season, it's basically in can. But I mean, as a fan, it's just so painful to watch, It's like they walk in the general direction of Jalen Hurts and then they just hope that he'll fall down. And obviously that kind of resulted in the game that he had. It's tough to watch. And like you guys said, Adrian Amos, I think he is a guy that was basically the leader of this defense for the past 3 years. And he's just fallen off tremendously physically. He's a 4-3 guy. I think people forget that quite often. He's a fast dude. He's an athletic dude. And he's just like not there anymore. I mean, he's a negative on this team. Darnell Savage is a negative on this team. I think Todd hit it on the head. There's not a single player that is playing better or even at the level they were playing at last year.
Well, before we move on, let's mention this because that kind of brings up something about not good player, and that's the Sean Ryan suspension. Dude, you're doing PEDs and you can't even crack the 50 or the 48 man roster for game day. Really? 6 games for PEDs and you can't even beat somebody out on the offensive line. I think he got ripped off.
Yeah, rough. Real rough.
Did they I didn't look and see, did they say what he was on?
I haven't looked closely. I just know they said it was PEDs, and yeah, he's got the 6 game without pay.
The thing with PEDs is there's a lot of different reasons guys will take those. I used to work in the supplement industry and worked with a lot of guys that have taken steroids and other PEDs and stuff and dabbled a bit myself over the years, but nothing super hardcore like what a lot of guys are taking. But
no wonder you're so jacked. It's that HGH, man.
For sure. Well, HGH, IGF was a big one that a lot of guys were on as well. And those two are more focused on recovery than actual muscle building. And that's where, somebody like Sean Ryan, it could have been just, this season just lingering on at this point where, guys say like at this point, 80% is your new 100%. And if it's taken a toll on him and on his body and, in order for him to feel like it at his best to have a shot to crack that active roster on game day consistently, he might have needed something there. So I think everybody should be allowed to take them. I'm in the same boat as Jimmy on this one. Let's just let guys juice. I think if you let them do it and you make it more regulated, you're going to see better results, better safety from it in that standpoint. So at the end of the day, especially like with baseball, when HGH and IGF were the two big ones that guys were getting popped with, like, I want to see the stars on the field, man. And if they can take something that helps them recover and play at their best and be on the field, then let's go. If Aaron Rodgers can take something to help his thumb heal quicker and him play better on the field, let's go. If Justin Fields can take something to be on the field playing this weekend, let's go. Like, that's what people want to see. And steroids get a bad rap because, back in the 80s when guys really started hitting them, and then the early 90s, it was so unregulated. And this was stuff that guys were making at home that they had no idea what was actually going on with it. And these days that stuff is so just scientific that it's not as harmful as it used to be. And I don't see a reason that professional athletes shouldn't be allowed to take them.
Well, I've got 2 points. One, doesn't the NFL still consider Adderall PED?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, and a lot of guys are getting popped with that because, it is a medication for whatever, and they just don't keep the prescription, and that's what they usually get popped on. And number 2, I think a lot of the negativity on steroids is when you put it into athletes and you see the negative results, like, when you mix that with CTE and all that, where you get the Chris Benoit situations, the Junior Seau situations, stuff like that. I think a lot of people view steroids in a negative light because of the press, which that is a whole nother podcast too. But the press kind of pushes it out there that, it was a mixture of this and it destroyed the brain and blah, blah, blah. So I think a lot of people fear that, and that's why they still keep it. Roger Goodell is going to do whatever he's going to do to quote unquote, protect the brand. And if he can keep that stigma away, then he's going to keep that stigma away. It's kind of like when you can get a full year suspension for betting, but only get 6 months for 26 sexual assault allegations, or 6 weeks for sexual assault allegations. There's a weird thing right there. Or, Josh Gordon get popped so many times for marijuana, but so and so went and beat the hell out of his girlfriend and only got 2 games. So there's a huge stigma on everything. But like I said, that's a whole nother podcast. We probably shouldn't actually move on into the game discussion. That's your turn, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. I mean, especially for recovery purposes, I do agree. Yeah, so let's this game. I mean, I think we've kind of already leaked into a lot of what we want to talk about for this game. Something I want to cover is just this shitty, depressing, awful defense. Let's take a second to kind of appreciate this offense finding a bit of a groove. I mean, Watson, I'm in love. Joe knows just how much I love this kid and how this every week I'm just so excited to see what he can do. And I mean, when you think about the threat that Christian Watson is, there legitimately is probably only like maybe 2 or 3 other guys in the entire have that same dynamic ability and productive potential that he does. I mean, it's really like him and Tyreek at the top, and it is a handful of joy to watch. I mean, where are you guys at with what we're seeing from this side of the ball?
I'll go ahead and let Todd talk.
Yeah, Christian, the last few weeks, really, now that he's healthy, has had some time in the system. I mean, it's really starting to stand out where he's at, and it's clear that it's being noticed. I mean, Watkins is just plummeting down that depth chart every week, which means,
Did he even get any snaps this past game?
I believe he had 4 snaps.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well.
So yeah, I mean, his size, his speed, his athleticism, it didn't even look like he was running that fast on his touchdown, but he was just like, no one's going to catch me.
He jogged, and what they say they timed it at, it was like 20.97 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I want to say the guy that he covering him, who he also juked out of his pants. I mean, if you saw the move he puts on him on the actual route, that guy is a legit 4-3 corner as well. He's not like some slow dude. He's a fast player as well. And they're not even like in the same dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. But as far as the offense figuring it out, I mean, finally running the ball consistently, which we've seen, over the last few weeks, really since that Dallas game, making a concerted effort to run the ball. And when they came out and went down 13-0, I was like, man, this is about to be the Aaron Rodgers hero ball that we all hate to see. And credit to Matt LaFleur. He stuck to the run. They kept establishing it and were able to bounce back pretty quick there. And to see Aaron Jones finally getting some yards after contact, AJ Dillon as well. It feels like those, both of those guys have struggled to really bounce off of guys this year. So it was nice to see that happening. Aaron Jones getting some of those, quicker little chunk plays that, the 7 to 12 yarders, that it feels like when he starts getting those, like that's when the line's there. He's not getting touched for 3-4 yards, and you're like, okay, it's a good day. Aaron Jones is going to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Can we say Bakhtiari's back?
Yeah.
I mean, he for a guy that people completely wrote off, I mean, he's been playing every snap of the last 7 games.
And the second half of Detroit, I don't think he played.
Okay. So yeah, but anyway,
while.
he's been playing a lot of snaps lately, and he's looking like pretty much his old self. I mean, he's had some moments here or there, but considering the guy hasn't played in 2 years, I think he's back. Elton's been kind of rough, but now that they've put him into his natural position, he's been stout. That block
How bad
that
was that holding call?
Oh, horrible. It's
awful.
so bad when you have people or players from other teams that are defensive players saying that's not a hold. Right now I can't look at my Twitter. I saved a couple of them, but there were guys that, were flat out saying that's not a hold. I play defense. The offensive line holds 90% of the time, and that's not one of them. And, it was horrible. It should have just been a pancake block. That he drove that guy like blindside. He put him in the stands. He was taking him to the bus. So, but yeah, the offensive line was playing lights out. I wish Aaron Jones was the size, could keep his athleticism, but be the size of AJ Dillon, because that would be amazing. Because he runs through blocks, through tackles. He's shifty. He's got the speed there. Some of the durability concerns with him, but could you imagine if he was the size of AJ Dillon? Oh, that would be, I don't know. I might orgasm right there. I know that's kind of crude, but that would be just amazing.
He'd be Derrick Henry.
He might even be better than Derrick Henry if he was that size, just because of the athleticism he seemed to have. It's crazy saying that means he was a 5th-round pick and not a lot of people put a lot of stock into him. But that's another hard decision that they're going to have to make at the end of the season. Do they keep him and pay him? Do they restructure? What do they do with him? Because that guy's been basically the offense for this team. Christian Watson, what have I been saying, Nick? I'm fully hyped up with him. He's stacking successes now. He's got his confidence. I'm really looking forward to when Dobbs comes back and seeing how they play together. Watkins can take the next bus out of town for all I care. And Torre, that one still boggles my mind. Why the hell is he not getting snaps? When you've got Rodgers sitting there praising him, but yet he's still not getting snaps. What the hell's going on there? This one, me and Todd might have a big argument with, but Keyshawn Nixon as returner. I've said all along, and I know you and what's her name, Haley, got ripped because you had two polarizing opinions on Amari Rodgers. I kind of side with Haley a little bit with it, where I think the Packers misused him, but I do agree he should have been off returns ASAP. It's amazing what Keyshawn Nixon's doing. He's been the best returner we've had since what? Roel Preston? Maybe Glenn Milburn? Oh, I can't even give Tyler Ervin, man, because he was surprising, but this kid was getting easily 30 yards a return every return at least. I thought he was going to break one there towards the end of the game. But I know you're kind of limited on NFL stuff, Nick. 2016 is pretty much your cutoff for that, so you might not be able to go back that far. But Todd, when's the last time we saw a guy like this?
I can't like early Randall Cobb when he was still returning kicks.
Yeah, but even him, he only had that one really big return, and he was pretty average after that. That's kind of why they took him off of it.
Yeah.
So I really struggled thinking who the last great return. Micah Hyde had some pretty good punt returns, but he was never a kick returner. So, maybe we found him. That's another one that kind of scares me when it comes to contract time, because the way he's playing right now, they're going to have to throw the bank at him. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be, as we've said, it'll be an interesting offseason. But yeah, Nixon looked to be, towards the end, they're pretty solid on the returns. I'm going to pump the brakes on getting too excited there, given that he still showed who he can be on that first return when he fumbled it in the end or muffed it in the end zone and then picked it up and ran out to the 10 and fell down. So there's always that.
I got to give him a little leeway, though, because I think they've said this is the first time he's ever returned punts or kicks. So, you got to give him a little bit of.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not
leeway with
going to
that.
shit on the guy, but I'm gonna withhold some praise.
If he goes out and fumbles 7 out of 8 returns, then we can start saying, hey, get that fucking guy out of here.
Yeah.
But do we have to talk about the defense? I really don't want to talk about this defense.
I think we've covered kind of a lot of what we want to talk about. Something I want to go over is just how players that you think we should keep on. I don't know how close you guys are looking at the contract situation for this team, but a good chunk of this team is not going to be here for next year. And for a team that's not entirely sure what their future is going to be, I think they have to be really selective, like you guys mentioned, on who they extend, how much they pay them, who they want to keep around. I mean, someone like Aaron Jones on the other side, I think that if they don't feel like they can compete next year, he's probably on his way out. And, like we said, Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage might be around. I mean, now they've already signed the 5th year. With a coordinator change, be a little bit better, but, he's another one that might be out the door. There's so many moving pieces. Like, what players do you guys want to see stay on?
I don't know. It's really hard to talk this early because anything can happen. I mean, I know we sit here, a lot of us will sit here and praise Russ Ball, but, we didn't think the majority of the team would be coming back this year, and they were still able to manage to fit most of them in their minus. They only lost 2 key pieces, Za'Darius and Devontae. I mean, they were big pieces, but, I mean, other than that, they were able to fit the whole team pretty much in there.
Let's not forget Za'Darius didn't do a damn thing last year.
Right. I'm surprised he didn't fake a back injury. Did I say fake? I'm sorry. I mean, he had a back injury. I'm surprised it hasn't reoccurred this year. But I don't know. Obviously, the wide receiver room is going to stay pretty much the same because they're all relatively young. I have a feeling the Cobb decision is going to depend on the Rodgers decision. If Rodgers is around next year, Cobb's going to be around next year. Bakhtiari, I'm pretty sure, is going to be there. I've said this before. I wouldn't be surprised if Elton's gone. I think this is the last year of his contract anyway. Am I right? I could be wrong.
2018, yeah.
Okay. So I really think he's going to be gone, as much as I'd hate to. He was a little bit older as a draft pick, and so he's already 27. So I could see him being gone. I was surprised they didn't try to move him at the trade deadline just to try getting something out of him. Other than that, the offensive line is pretty sad. I know they have to make a decision on Yash. Because I think he's a restricted. They do have to make a decision on Lazard. I'm not sure on that one. He's not. I mean, in his limited time, he's been decent, but I don't think he's a number 1, so I don't think I would be comfortable giving him big money, especially with Dobbs and Watson kind of starting to finally break out. And I do feel that the Packers will take a wide receiver pretty early in the next year's draft.
As long as it's not in the 3rd round.
Yeah, no 3rd rounders. We're trading all 3rd rounders from now on. I don't care. That's, as an owner, I demand it. Tunyon. Go ahead.
No, just like who on defense specifically, like.
You want to go defense?
Yeah.
Lowry's got to be gone. There's no doubt about it. I talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to push that anymore. I think they'll have to
actually as well.
I think they have to do some restructuring with Razul and Devondre's contract. Probably Jair's. I do want to kind of touch on that because I have it in my notes. What the hell is up with Jair's attitude lately? I love it personally, but we've never seen this side of him before on the field. And I watched a video earlier where he was flipping off the Philly crowd as he was walking off after the last injury timeout, whatever it was. But I got to say that he's going to have to probably be restructured to be able to keep other people on. Barnes is probably gone. I really don't know. Like I said, I've touched on a few things, but it's really hard for me to talk about just because we'll have to see more towards the end of the season. Because the big decision is going to be Rodgers. Is he here? Is he gone? Is he? What's going on with him? So
traded to the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, his cap hit is pretty much the same whether he's here or they trade him or he retires.
Right.
And it's astronomical. So
yeah, I believe like 59 million. And then I think if he retires, that's the only option that gives slightly less, and that's like I think 45 million, which is thanks a lot.
I've seen a lot of people talk about the post June 1st trade that would it still kind of hurts us in the next couple of years, but it would give massive relief this year. But that one's a hard thing to do because of the compensation stuff. Yeah,
and I don't know if you guys on Twitter, but he covers the cap quite closely, and the breakdown of Rodgers' extension is his cap hit actually gets worse every single season that he's on. Mm-hmm. So if he's here in 2024, I think it's 80 million cap hit or like 75 million cap hit. It's like actually like fucking ridiculous. So if we're gonna get rid of him, it's sorry.
Ken tweeted out this morning, if he retires or is traded in 2023, it's a $40.3 million dead cap for this year, or between 23 and 24 if it's executed after June 1st. And there's no way to move that dead money.
Right. So I really don't know. But I mean, that's still a big decision. If they keep him, then certain pieces are going to stick around. If they don't, then you've got to believe it's going to be a complete rebuild.
Who are those pieces that are going to stick around? Like, there's Randall Cobb. I can love the guy. I can live without him at this point.
Oh, I could live without him too, but look at how much of a hissy fit Rodgers threw just to get him back in there. He quote unquote wanted his best friend. So I think if Rodgers is still on the Packers, he's going to say, I want Randall there with me. Unless Randall says, hey, I'm going to retire. My body's pretty beat up. I'm retiring. If he still is wanting to play and Rodgers is on the Packers, I really see him saying, if you want me, then Randall's coming with me.
Yeah, I think with Randall having the way that he was kind of shaken up after that ankle injury, and initially thought it was serious, you can kind of see a guy like him saying he's got the opportunity to end his career on his own terms, rather than coming back and chancing it again and having that injury be serious. And now the game's over for you because it wants to be. I could see him saying it's time to hang it up there, but he was also could be having a good time and wants to come back. And, when you think about the kind of money these guys are paid, if you feel like you can still go out there and grab another few mil.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm indifferent either way. I love Randall Cobb. I've met him a couple times. He's a great guy. You got to love them eyes. Hey, I'm secure in my masculinity to say that guy's got some pretty eyes.
Hell yeah.
But I really see it if he doesn't retire, like you said, on his own, which I'm completely okay with. He can, I would have no problems with him saying, hey, I'm calling it quits. this is my last year. I got to finish out with my best friend. I got to finish out in Green Bay. He'll retire. He'll obviously end up in the Packer Hall of Fame and all that good stuff. But I really think that if he says, I want to play another year, that if Rodgers is still on the team, he's going to say, well, if you want me, you got to take Randall too. Same with Bakhtiari. Even though Bakhtiari is a harder one to cut because of cap issues and all that, there's no real savings there and whatever. But I really think if Rodgers sticks around, he's going to pick and choose. All right, I want this guy. And then you guys have the rest. You can build the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think a couple of things that you brought up here that we just kind of went past. Elton Jenkins, I think they've got to find a way to bring him in and keep him around, just because you don't know what Bakhtiari's longevity looks like, and having a guy like Jenkins just anchor that down is, I think that's a guy you've got to prioritize. And then jumping over to Jair's attitude, I don't know that flipping off the crowd is necessarily real representative of who he is, but I've had some friends this year comment on him being, a little bit more cocky and stuff like that. And I personally love it, because if you are my highest paid cornerback and you're paid like one of the top cornerbacks in the league, I want you to assume you are better than everyone you're lining up against. And I want you to tell them that at every chance you get.
Okay, you guys want some inside scoop?
Yes.
Okay. My best friend in the whole world.
Me?
Actually, well, you're a close second. You're a close second, but this guy is like my little brother and everything, and he's probably listening. He's probably one of our 5 listeners. But he's good friends with Jair. They met up in Green Bay, and they've done talk on the phone all the time, or did for the longest time, and would communicate back and forth and whatever. And I texted that video of him of Jair flipping off the Philly crowd, and I go, hey man, this is kind of unusual. We really never saw this out of him before. I mean, he had his moments where he would celebrate and whatever, but the kind of attitude he's had this year, you never really saw before. And my buddy goes, that's him. That's him every day. And yeah, so what we're finally seeing him come out of his cocoon, and I love it. I personally do. This team needs that kind of spark. I wish he would kind of push that as into a leadership role and push, the other players to get that attitude back into him. And I think it would help out a lot. But yeah, from my inside source, that's typical Jair, which is weird because, like I said, normally we didn't see that out on the field.
Right. But, I mean, I would say he's always been that guy. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched him at Louisville. Like obviously, like he's always been that guy. He's always been that, kind of rah in your face guy. And in college, I think you saw quite a lot of that. I just think we've never been this bad while Jair's been here. So you're kind of seeing it come out quite a lot more, and probably in a little bit more of a, slightly less family-friendly way. But I mean, yeah. I love seeing it out of him. You don't pick and choose when to be cocky. You don't just be cocky when you're good and when you're winning. You have to live that. Take advantage of it when it helps you.
And I think it helped that he got the big ass contract.
Yeah, everybody's going to talk a little bit more and be a little bit more out there once you get that kind of. I tell people all the time, you give me money, I am an absolute just like, you think I'm a dickhead now? Don't give me money.
Oh no, I love you, man.
Don't give me money. It ain't gonna be good.
You're not a dickhead. If you're a dickhead, then I got to be a dickhead, and I'm not a dickhead. I may be an asshole. But no, we're probably should move on to look at the next game because our time is coming short.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this
we don't want to keep Todd up too late.
I've got to get my beauty rest, man.
True that.
Hey, now you know how my normal week is. See how it is recording with the Australian.
Hey, little teaser here. I've got to get my beauty rest because I have to produce a pre-recorded interview for the girls over on Green and Gorgeous that'll be coming out later this week. and I got to look.
There you go.
I got to look good to produce
Nice.
this interview. So check them out Thursday nights on Game On Wisconsin.
I don't know, man. How are you going to beat that prettiness? It's going to be tough.
I'm telling you, the guests that they've got coming in, I want to look my best.
Yeah. Well, make sure you get the good hat out this time.
All I have is good hats. I might actually do my hair for this one.
Oh man. Normally on Thursday nights are my days off, so I'm not sitting at the computer. I might have to change that this week.
Yeah, I recommend. I mean, she's got a husband, but she's also got friends, so I gotta say what's up.
There you go. What's up, man? All right. That's enough of love connection. Let's
I mean, speaking of,
I could riff all night. You asked Nick, I can rant and riff all night, but I know you want to get going, so we probably should press on.
I mean, speaking
Trust
of
me, I have to edit this every week, and I've cut out like hours of conversation.
Yeah, they don't let me edit on brand and off topic anymore because I just cut out every time Jimmy talked.
Well, I would too. I have to say, kind of off topic again. I have to give Jimmy some respect because he jumped at the chance to come on our piddly little podcast. So I can't really be too mean, but you had me worried the other day, Todd, because you were acting way too nice to him, and I thought maybe somebody had got to you. So I'm glad you're back to kind of normal.
Yeah, now there was a stomach bug or something going around the area. Everybody kind of, I'm not sure what I caught, but it thankfully it ran through my system pretty quick, I think.
But all right, Nick, I think we're doing the game preview of Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all great chat, so I'm not stressed at all. But let's get into it. We're going to Chicago this time. I think, unfortunately, for me, I don't think Jordan Love is going to be starting this game as much as I desperately need to see that.
The way it sounded at Rodgers' press conference last night, he pretty much, as long as he wants to start, he's going to start.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting interview from RG3 today where he doesn't think anyone on the coaching staff is strong enough to challenge Aaron Rodgers. And we kind of joked about this in the early years of the LaFleur era, but I think it's really true now. You can't really deny that LaFleur is kind of afraid to step on Aaron's toes, and this team is somewhat run by Aaron at this point. And like fair enough, like he definitely deserves to finish the way that he wants. But also, there is a point when you have to do something. You have to do things that are the best for your team, and maybe we see in the next couple of weeks after the bye. But I mean, yeah, this another game where Aaron Rodgers is likely to start. But by all like the statistic metric, the Chicago defense is probably the worst in the league, if not the second worst at best. I mean, it's awful. It's bad. I mean, Mike White, 3 touchdowns, 300 yards. He's basically a no-name at quarterback, and he roasted.
I don't know. You ask Jets fans, and he's the second coming because he's had a couple good games. So
Zach Wilson is just so terrible, and in my opinion, it was just an awful pick at number 2. But anyway, getting this it's not a good team, and we're not a good team either. But we're a bit better than Chicago. And this should be a game where we can kind of showcase this offense once again. And, maybe Dobbs comes back. I mean, it's been 4 weeks now. Yeah, maybe Devondre Campbell comes back. We can't.
Well, now here's another insider scoop for you. I was watching another great Packers show, Clubhouse Live. And Devondre was on there, and he said he's pretty much on track to play Chicago.
Nice.
So I would say that unless something changes this week, Devondre will be back this week.
Nice.
And I think because I was listening to that bit with RG3 earlier tonight, and I don't know that was necessarily. Because he played under LaFleur, and I don't know that that's necessarily a shot to LaFleur or anybody else. There are very few people that have played the game that give you the opportunity week in and week out to win a game against anybody. And Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys, regardless of where he's at. If he's medically cleared, and let's remember, this is a very conservative medical team that the Packers have. If he's medically cleared to go, he absolutely does start. If you go back, Aaron Rodgers didn't start any games while Brett Favre was on this team.
Yep.
It wasn't about what do we have in him, what don't we have in him. Same thing with Jordan Love. If you're going to pick up that 50-year contract, you're going to pick that up whether he's playing and you see him this year or not. And I believe that they'll pick it up.
Yeah, I think they'll pick it up.
And then immediately try to move him if Rodgers sticks around, but I don't think that happens. When you look at, talking about Chicago being one of the worst defenses in the league, who's another really bad defense? Detroit. What happened there? So as much as I would like to say this game's going to be a breeze and hopefully we can see this offense do something, we've not seen this offense consistently play well week to week. We see, bright spots here and there. But we've also seen them play really bad against really bad defenses. So hopefully that's not the case this week.
I think the biggest factor is whether or not Justin Fields plays or not. Because I think Fields just saw what Jalen Hurts did to the Packers, and he's chomping at the bit. Not that Fields is as good as what Jalen Hurts is right now, but Fields kind of fits that mold where he can throw and he's a runner. And I think Jalen went for 165 yards himself on the ground. And I think Fields sees that and says, hey, I'm going whether this shoulder is good or not, because they can't stop a running quarterback. So I think it's really this game's going to depend on that. Like Todd said, the defense thing is kind of weird because the Packers have made bad defenses look good a lot lately. So it's going to, Dobbs coming back might be that push. It allows Watson to be free a little bit more. That he's not going to take the double coverages and that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I still want to say the Packers are going to pull it out. I think there's going to be some kind of magic there. Ooh, sorry. I pulled another image. I'm getting a little gassy. I don't know. I'm stumbling here because it's hard to say because last week I kind of said it, and I don't want to go on that same rant again, but if Rodgers is hurting as bad as he's hurting, then maybe he should just sit. I know he's got the competitive drive. I know he's got all that, he owns the Bears, blah, blah, blah. But if he's hurting as bad as he's hurting, he's got the broken thumb. He's got, possibly a couple cracked ribs, maybe broken ribs. If he's hurting that bad, I don't see how he can say to himself, I'm going to go out there and play. Because, just look at how he was throwing after he hurt his ribs. He was grimacing after every throw. He missed a couple of throws. I don't know. I'd love to see what – it's kind of weird to say. I love to see what Love has. I was never too high on the pick, like a lot of Packers fans weren't high on the pick. But I always say that once they get into the green and gold, I'm going to support them. So I just want to see what the kid has. Now, whether or not it's him starting or, maybe Rodgers starts the first half, and depending on how well they're doing or how bad they're doing, then Love can take over the second half. So is this a noon game? No, this is a Monday night game, isn't it?
No, I believe it's a noon game.
Noon game. Okay.
Guess, yeah.
All right. I think it's going to come down to the wire on Rodgers, game time decision. But It's going to be a tough one. Obviously it's a rivalry, and the Packers and the Bears are going to fight no matter what. And who knows? It'll probably come down to a field goal.
Yeah,
just shy of.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say just shy of overtime.
Yeah, I just think that the Packers they love to play to the level, and they've kind of always been like this. I mean, at least in the time that I've followed them closely. You just think about even like I always think that game with like Steelers. I mean, that was like an awful team, and they somehow like managed to match them. And like this season, even like against they were in like the game to win it, but they didn't just not show up. The Eagles game, the offense played well, even if they were kind of playing catch up for a lot of it. And on the same side of that, every time they play a bad team, that Lions game, they play down to them, and they assume, and they just don't try. It's really funny, and it's really strange to watch year in and year out. But I have no doubt that this is going to be a one-score game. I don't think we win this easily by any stretch. But yeah, it's that no matter how bad or how good the defense is, the Packers love to just get somewhere in that range, the opponent's skill level.
Yeah, Todd, you got any more on this game? Because I really struggle with talking about it because I'm in that mode where I don't know if I want to watch it or not.
Yeah, I think with the bye week, coming up after it, it'd be a great time to give Aaron Rodgers a week off. He'd be able to stack 2 weeks then. They don't play again until a Monday night at home against the Rams. Just lots of time there to recover. However, it's Aaron Rodgers. It's the Bears. It's, he lives for these games against them. And honestly, wouldn't surprise me if part of last week, this week, if his, that rib injury, he could be playing that up just so that he can stumble into Soldier Field, all banged up, bad thumb, bad ribs, just to beat the shit out of the Bears.
Yeah, I guess that could be. Yeah, I never thought of that one.
He's got it. He always wants the narrative. He's always going to try and control the narrative, and he wants to write the story the way he wants to write the story. I think him gutting it out to play in this game says more about his plans for the future. If he comes out there and plays and doesn't play well and is obviously hurt, that's a great sign that he just wanted one more shot at the Bears before he hangs it up.
I have to say this, though. If the Packers do lose, I'm staying off Twitter for at least a week.
Yeah,
because I can just see Bears bringing up, oh, I thought you still owned us. Yeah, fuck you. No, I'm staying off for at least a week.
Yeah, there's going to be some
radio
numbers.
Silent.
There's going to be some phone numbers of friends and family that I block. Probably log out of Twitter for a minute.
But I think it's a good time to move on to our favorite part of the show, and that's our guy. Nick, why don't you go ahead and do your guy?
Yeah, I think bouncing off what we just kind of talked about there, I want to pick Aaron Rodgers for this. I mean, this is a game that could be his last game with the Packers. I mean, I don't imagine it will be, but it's within the realm. If we play this game, if we lose, or even if we do win and we still get mathematically eliminated, and they decide to play love for the rest of the season, it's his last game. And as someone who's been the face of the franchise for so long, I think he deserves to at least get that last game in against the Bears, like you said. I want to see him go out and if Dobbs is back, we can kind of see what this offense could have been or maybe will be next year. It could be a really exciting opportunity if he is able to play, kind of get back into a rhythm, maybe recover. And he loves to beat on the Bears. We all know it. I think it could be a really fun game for Rodgers to kind of, you come back and if it is the last time, especially, and just go out, I mean, that would be sick.
Todd, I don't know if you've picked yours yet, so I'm going to go ahead and go to give you a little bit more time to think. My guy is Devondre Campbell because, like I said, I heard him tell Brett Christopherson that he was going to play this week. So I want to see how him coming back affects the defense at all. Because if he's going to play, they're going to give him the green dot, so he's going to communicate, which I think will free up Quay to just, play like a wild man, and, that'll help him out. They'll be able to blitz him a little bit more. He'll be able to spy, depending on if it's Fields playing or not. But I just want to see how the defense comes back after the ass kicking they took and see if maybe Devondre can help a little bit, just even the tiniest bit.
He can't hurt.
That's the truth. Can't be any worse.
No, it's to that point where, hell, I think I could walk out there and fall down and trip somebody and help this defense. Yeah, hopefully he does play. I mean, I know Jimmy was pretty worried about it early in the year too, with him missing, some more tackles and stuff. I mean, I don't like the word aberration because I don't know that that's what last year was.
Man, that's a big word, Todd. I got to give you that one.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I butchered it too. But I think it was just more of a return to the mean for him this year. I don't think he's who we saw him be last year. You got to remember, he was playing, his career was on the line last year. If he didn't make something happen, he wasn't getting a contract. Mm-hmm. And he played like that. He got that contract. He's able to breathe a little bit now. Doesn't have to play like those beautiful dreadlocks are on fire every single down and go from there. So it'll be nice to get him back because obviously this defense is better with him. But God, this defense is still. I just don't know how much that helps.
It's so hard to talk about just because you don't know what you're going to get out of them. And so, but yeah, who are you watching this next week, Todd?
I was torn on this one between our secondary and our running backs, and I think I'm going to go with the running backs. I think Aaron Jones, the last few weeks, is starting to really hit that groove. And I think that carries over again this week against the Bears. Weather looks great. Shouldn't have to worry about that awful field down there being in even worse condition than usual. Should be dry all week. So I'm hoping he can go down there and just absolutely tear up that defense.
That sounds good. I mean, mm-hmm. I did put this in the notes too, that I'm kind of wondering how the A.J. Dillon injury is, because he didn't look great when he was taken off the field. So if he's hurt, you're pretty well going to see a good dose of Aaron and a smattering of maybe Patrick Taylor, and maybe we get my boy Tyler Goodson up there. So
That'd be sick. Say that.
But yeah, I agree with that. I could see, and anybody in the secondary would be a good pick too, because they got to definitely play better than they did last week.
Well, and I think there's some guys there that are due to make a play. One, Amos is going to make a play against the Bears.
You got to hope so.
And I feel like Ja and Razul are just right on that edge of like, they got to do something.
How do I want to put this? I loved the way Jair led the charge after the interception against the Eagles. I'm struggling to remember who made the interception.
No, it was when Quay picked up that fumble.
The fumble, yeah.
And he's throwing up his hands like, "Hey, follow me!" Like we got the convoy.
Follow me.
And then blocked nobody.
Well, I got to thinking maybe Quay, because they were running side by side for a minute, maybe he should have just gave it to Jair, because Jair's got that top flight speed. And I think he would have scored had he been able to hand it off pretty good. Or, I mean, without any bobble or fumble or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, I thought that initially too, but Ja was quick to run out in front of him and throw his hands up, like, just follow us, man. We're gonna block right into the end zone for you. And then if you go back and watch it, he blocked nobody.
Well, to be fair, I probably wouldn't have blocked anybody either. I would have made it look good though.
Yeah, I don't even think he made it look
good. But like I said, we're kind of time crunched, so let's go ahead and move into over unders. We're already holding Todd over what we're kind of holding him hostage right now.
We're all right.
But I made a whole list of them, and I hate making a whole list of them and only being able to pick 2 or 3 of them because they're all good. But
yeah, no, run through them, man. They're good.
I am going to do 75.5 combined rushing yards for the Bears after the fucking mess that we had against the Eagles. I'm really curious to see how the Packers defense bounces back. So I set the number at 75.5 because that's a pretty good average. So over or under 75.5 rushing yards for the Bears. And that's combined. That's not just like Montgomery. It's combined out of all of them. And that's also dependent on if Fields plays or not.
I think it's over, and I don't think it matters if Fields plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this team has no interest in tackling no matter who's there. So I think they'd probably gladly let them walk through for 7.
Well, David Montgomery's a damn good running back too.
And I hate saying that because he's an Iowa State product, and I can't stand Iowa State. I'm going to go the under just for the hell of it. I for some reason, and I don't have anything around here, but knock on wood, I've been pretty decent with my over-unders so far this year. Maybe at the end of the season, we should run through and see what my percentage was, Nick. But I'm going to go under. I'm going to say that the defense is going to kind of maybe not completely step up, but maybe getting Devondre back and all that. They're going to say, hey, I don't really feel good about getting punched in the mouth like we did against the Eagles. So we're going to actually hit somebody. And, like I said earlier, it's Bears week. So Packers and Bears always fight hard against each other.
For sure.
But so that leads to, I'm going to go ahead and do the 20.5 Packer points. Do the over under Packers scoring 20.5.
Nick,
go first.
Okay. I feel good. 21. They kind of figured out where they want to go, and I don't think anyone on this defense can really be counted on to start. So I feel good about our chances of going over.
Yeah, I'm going to follow suit on that one. The offense seems like they got it figured out. They definitely don't have a formidable defense to go against this week. I don't know that it matters who plays quarterback. I think they find the end zone 3 times.
Maybe Level have a Hunley game, huh? Where against the Bears, where he comes out and just, yeah, I'll go over with it. I probably should have set the score a little bit higher, but about the time that I did, they would only score like 10 points. So, I'm going to do 2 more just because I have one fun one here. But I'm going to go with 50.5 yards for Christian Watson. I know he's been going on a tear lately, but I think it's going to come to a point where he's not going to hit that 100-yard mark. So I kind of set it middling at 50.5. So, what do you guys think? Over, under?
Over. Never in doubt. It's always over. That'd be his first catch, 50 yards.
And that's the thing with him is, I mean, he's got that ability on any play to hit that over.
It takes one.
Joe, I think you're right. We are going to see that week where this does kind of stop. I mean, every receiver, regardless of their talent level, at some point. You can't keep going on the pace that he's got right now. So I do think we'd see a dip eventually. I don't know that it's this week or that it's that significant when it does pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and take the over as well on this one.
I'm going to take the under, but just barely. I'm going to say he's going to go for like 3 for 50, but only because Dobbs comes back and maybe Torrey will get some playing time. So if Dobbs comes back, he's going to get some good looks. So I think they're going to split it. I think Christian's still going to have a pretty good game, but I think he's going to hit that 50 mark. So I'm going to go under, but just barely. And then my last one I'm going to do is the fun one. I didn't get a chance to keep track of it against the Eagles. So Nick, I'm hoping maybe you can catch it on replay, but 1.5 Santas in the stadium. Because we're in that time of year.
What's the date of the game? Is it like the 4th or something, or the 3rd?
Yeah, it's December? The 4th.
God. I want to go under. I feel like we'll see 1. I think Joe mentioned this the week before. Maybe you guys are much more rabid about there, but I just find that so hilarious. Surely there's not more than 1 though.
I don't know, man. This is the same kind of sport where you've got people showing up in like booty shorts in negative 20-degree weather. So, I mean, we're in that time.
There you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, this time of year with it getting close to Christmas, you're going to see a lot of weird stuff in the stadiums. And I love this because, the people know the cameras are going to find them if they have these outrageous outfits on. And it always pops in my mind that they always seem to find at least 1 or 2 Santas in the crowd. So I think it's going to be 2. So I'm going to take the over on it. And Todd knows a little bit more about it too, because he attends a lot more games than I do. But
over.
I mean,
pound the over. Hammer that over.
Really?
Yeah. So the thing with the Santa suit too is like it's not going to be real cold. Looks like probably low 40s, and it's a noon game, so you're going to have peak rays with the sun. So you're not going to have to really bundle up. A Santa suit is going to be optimal warmth. And it's Chicago. These dudes are going to be drunk because they don't give a shit about this.
See,
I'm going to add Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I find your guys' measure of like how cold weather is just so hilarious in perspective, because I think it was that game, one of the home games that we got recently, and everyone always wants a home playoff game we got recently. And people were like, oh, it's not going to be that cold. It's only like 30 degrees. And 30 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius is like negative. And like for me like to comprehend like just how cold that is, and it's like not that cold to you. There's like a handful of places in this entire country where it ever gets negative temperature. One of those being my fridge. And it's like that doesn't happen in this country. So to hear you guys talk in the 40s or it's only in the 30s, that's like the max amount of cold it ever gets in Australia.
Well, I will tell you this. One of these days, I'm hoping that maybe we can get Todd on here, get Jimmy on here, and we can just discuss the differences, because you're talking to some upper Midwest guys that
exactly,
I was at a game, or it was, I think the second game I've ever went to was in 2014 against Atlanta in middle of December. And it got like negative 20 wind chill, and it was a wet snow and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, that was cold, miserable cold, but it was still a fun cold. So, yeah, we've got different distinctions here. And I hope one of these days we can do a special episode with Todd and Jimmy and maybe some other guys on here where we can discuss that kind of thing with you and set you straight American style.
I will say I was at the Buccaneers playoff game, the championship game. That was fairly cold. However, at no point did I zip up my overalls or my jacket, which is fairly common. I would rather be a little bit chilly than zip up, break a sweat underneath, and then just be
right.
Yeah,
like a popsicle. And I was at the San Francisco game last year. That was fine temperature wise. I mean, it was snowing, so it wasn't super cold out. The coldest game I've been to was the 27. I believe that was a divisional round, or the 17 divisional round against, or no, that was a wild card round against the Giants, the Randall Cobb Hail Mary game.
Yeah, that one. I almost was able
Right.
to make it to that one. That one was,
yeah, that was like 10 or 15 degrees, somewhere around there. That was miserably cold.
Tom Coughlin looked like he was going to die. That's how cold it was.
We all did. Everyone in that stadium looked like we were going to die.
But yeah, like I said, hopefully one of these days we can do a special episode, maybe in the off season, where we can talk about that stuff and Nick can understand what it's like over here during the games. And hopefully one of these days, if we get this podcast really pushing, we can get Nick over here for a game. So,
One day.
I think that's all I got, Nick. Is there anything else you two really need to want to put out there?
No, I think I'm all good. Todd, if there's anything that you want us or our listeners to listen to that you're doing right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We've got a new episode of On Brand and Off Topic coming out beyond today, technically Tuesday, November 29th. We finally got Jimmy back in the studio with us. He's been busy doing anything but hanging out with Aaron and I on Monday night. So the three of us
Jimmy
finally got to put an episode out. That'll be it was a ton of fun to record. It should be a good one to listen to. And then Wednesdays, 7:00 Central, Jimmy once again and I and our buddy Dan Kotnick will be live on Game On Wisconsin YouTube channel for Lombardi's Bar.
Awesome. Yeah, sweet. Well, that's going to be all from us today, guys. As always, you can find us on Twitter. You can find Todd at @TheToddV. You find me at NicholasGRGR and Joe at Iowa_Joe86. Find the podcast Outback_Packers. And until next time, see you later.